I'm a little bit later than if I had normally popped on. I didn't know if I was going to pop on or not because I've had a horrible sinus headache all day. So I didn't know if I was going to be able to. And I've got some massive hair going on today. So let me get that done with first. So obviously, if you follow my channel in any little bit at all, you would have seen where I got upset with the news that I saw last night, relaying the Oscars event. And I got on last night and did a really quick video. Got a Calic. Did a really quick video about the Oscars event. And I would not have noticed it had it not been that I was not resting well because of all the weather pressure coming in and my sinuses starting in. I wasn't resting well, and I just kind of looked through like today's top stories and saw that that was one of today's top stories. And I thought, that's one of the, look, we've got Vladimir Putin and all this other stuff going on, and that was one of today's top stories. Okay. So I watched it and was appalled at the behavior, y'all. I've got a shadow across my forehead and it's driving me nuts. I was appalled at the behavior. And I thought, people spend part of their life actually watching these shows. I'm weaving over our house. People spend part of their life actually watching these shows. And I thought, you know, back when Will Smith was young and, you know, was getting in all these new movies and stuff, and he was like the it man, the hype man, the new star. You know, I kind of liked a lot of his behavior publicly when he was younger. As he's gotten older, I've noticed that that has become something that I've liked less and less. And I have to be honest and say it's not been because of his behavior, but because of his wife's behavior. And I try to be very actively aware of that when I read or watch a story about them or about the children that they've raised, because I know that that plays into my perception a lot, and I try to be aware of that. I was just appalled that is what people turn to for entertainment last night, and that this is someone that, by American standards, it should be someone that is revered and looked up to, and kind of given a lot of, you know, birth with behavior. And I have to say that the first time I ever heard of Jada Pinkett doing that red table discussion, and the first time I watched one of the red table discussions, I was just like, I don't think I like this woman. I don't think I agree with her views, and that's great. That's fine. Possibly a lot of people do. But it was her dogma that she walked into the room with. It was her own self-importance, and it really was what kind of turned me off to her. And I have watched, since Will Smith married her, I've watched kind of, I don't know, there's just been a lot of behavior that has just confused me socially, that has made me concerned as a parent, and that has just landed in this little place where I don't understand it and have tried and cannot make peace with it. And so I've just had to kind of say, sorry, y'all do not get space in my world anymore. And last night when I watched the Oscars, I realized, it kind of, you know, I kind of realized, for me personally, I think I made the best decision possible, because I absolutely did not agree with what I saw last night. But what really kicked it for me, and I hope y'all give me some feedback if y'all saw this too, was the little speech and then the apology this morning. That was a joke. The speech at the Oscars was just a justification attempt for the behavior. And I was just so, I don't know, disenchanted with the whole thing at that point. Um, because I can understand someone going through a health issue and being, because I have numerous health issues, and being disrespected, because y'all have seen me be there a lot myself. Never in a million years would I like do physical harm to someone who is, I'm bending Willow, who is disrespecting me or making a joke about my behavior, though, because that's just not necessary. Um, so to see the justification bugged me, it irritated me. Um, and then the speech at the end, as if it wasn't enough, the statement that his publicity team made this morning was just unnecessary. But it brought into my thinking scope a lot of the things that I have questioned or that society has questioned about the kids. Now, hang with me. They're basically grown now, so I'm still going to be try to be super respectful when I talk about them, because they're still young, they're still finding their way. But I'm going to address this because when I have watched Will Smith and Jada in some of their behaviors and their marital behaviors and their marital squabbles, I have many times walked away from that viewing and been like, Jada, where's the pants? To a point where it almost felt like the behavior was so toxic it even affected me being in my little cocoon thousands of miles away. And I've been like, Jada, where's the pants? Not a big deal. Some women do. Oh, hi, Snugglepuss. Honey, I've had a rough day too. If you're not feeling well, you go rest. It's fine. It'll be here when you get ready to watch it. I'm just pretty much spewing. Hi, Gypsy. Um, but if you have paid a lot of attention to the kids, what have the kids been known for? Their odd demonstrations and take on gender roles. Their odd verbalizations and thought patterns about relationship standards, relationship roles. All these things that we know the family has struggled with. And I'm not saying that like I have some kind of insider knowledge. Jada sits down at a red table and tells God, Jesus, and everybody who'll listen. We know that there's been huge issues with infidelity in the home that has then been turned into experimentation and an open marriage. We know that it has not gone over well, and we can see the discussions that she has openly. We've even had the kids jump in on some discussions with people about relationships and their perception of relationships. And I'm just speaking honestly as someone that used to kind of work in the counseling field and saw a lot of children react to parental behavior. All of her children gravitate toward a harsh female attitude. A very macho, machismo, but very much female machismo attitude. They have verbalized their concern with monogamy and how they feel that monogamy is a failed experimentation. And I can't help but wonder, since all of them kind of parrot the same thing, if it's not that they wonder these things, but that it's all they've witnessed, and therefore it's all they know to parrot, because they've not potentially seen a healthy relationship that is not different. And perhaps that is why all of the kids have a strong female dynamic, have fear of monogamy, or think that monogamy has a stench. Maybe that is why they flex the gender roles, especially the male. Could it be that they see more positive behavior in return to the female energy because the mother is such a very much dogmatic woman? Like, she's very in control. Oh, y'all are fine. You all do what you gotta do. It's not a problem. I understand. I have those days as well. I'm just on here blabbing, and it'll be here if you want to listen later. It's not a big deal. I just had a thought, wanted to spit it out. Um, but we have somewhat celebrated these children and their ideals that they have established since coming of age and growing up and being able to speak for themselves. And I wonder if potentially the social acceptance was more of a negative than a positive. I wonder if potentially if someone had said, instead of going, oh my God, yes, you have such a fresh take on this, a fresh view, and not having the audacity or the courage to say, why do you think that? Where have you witnessed that? What specific behaviors have you witnessed from people that make you draw those inferences? Because I've never heard them questioned. I've only seen them celebrated. And that's dangerous, especially with young people that are growing up that don't know all the rules and don't know all the social niches and clique groups and don't know some of the damage that can come from following a belief without testing a belief. And I just wonder if potentially we are now seeing why these kids have this specific view, this specific slant toward relationship, gender roles, gravitating toward the female psyche and the female energy. Is it because mom has always been in power? Mom has always been the powerful one. Mom has always been the flex. Because, Will Smith may have walked up and smacked somebody last night, but the absolute loser of last night was Will Smith. Because he showed that at a specific point, he does not have control of his faculties. That for whatever reason, rather emotional, mental, whatever, he checks out and cannot follow his own guide, and all these things he said about love and protection. And at some point, he physically checks out and cannot be the person that he preaches loudly everyone else should try to be. Did we get a glimpse last night of the struggle inside that home? And should we all think twice before we start to praise these kids that take these huge twists and turns when they're absorbing gender roles and gender identities? Should we take more time to say, it's okay to experiment and to test these things. It's great. I have no problem with that. You got to be you. But on your travel to find yourself, have you hit a pathway where you feel pressured, coerced, or scared, or without options? Or that you're picking the side of power out of fear? Could that potentially have been part of what we witnessed last night? Is it? Because I woke up this morning to everyone saying that Will Smith needed to protect his woman because women need to be protected by their men. But 2 weeks ago, nobody could define what a woman was. And if I had said someone had smacked somebody, it would have been because of toxic masculinity. We can't be taking these super curveballs anymore in society, and with how we relate and with how we grow socially and how we train our next generation. We cannot be taking these huge roller coaster dips and dives. There has to be some consistency. I am seeing none. And without consistency, children become lost. Without some consistency, and it doesn't have to be consistency, nationwide. It can just be consistency within a community, within a support group, within the family. But if we don't see some consistency, these kids are going to be lost. Yeah, they're insane. And I woke up to people supporting him and absolving him of any wrongdoing. And I was like, so now it's okay to put your hands on people. It's no longer toxic masculinity to put your hands on people. There is a place for aggression and physical violence. There is. You live in a world where people are sometimes dangerous, and there has to be a place for that. And we have to have those discussions. We have to understand those limits and boundaries. But is it at the Oscars? And if you're at the Oscars, are you really in danger and thinking you need to protect your family at the Oscars? When you're there with your armed security, with the Oscars armed security, and with cameras blazing, and I mean, are you really at risk? Do you really need to protect your family in that environment? Meantime, people that live in poverty, have to wait an hour for the cops to show up. And if they try to defend themselves, will end up in court for years. But it's okay for you to walk up on stage and smack the dickens out of somebody, which I actually have dickens in my genealogy, so if you want to smack the dickens out of me, it needs to be pretty hard because they're a couple generations back. I just thought, really? Is this what we're seeing with our new society, our new generations, that we justify whatever is done by the cool people? Is that where we are? Yeah, Nikki says, in my opinion, Will lost any and all rights to defend his woman when he agreed to opening the marriage. Thank you. I agree with you. I agree that when you open the marriage door and you open the marriage bed, you lose kind of the head of household status, and whatever you thought you needed to protect is probably long gone. That is my perception. I think monogamy is a beautiful thing, and I know that not everyone agrees with me, but I understand the role that it plays, especially with raising children, especially with safety in raising children. And yeah, I get it. And I understand that not everybody lives my life, and that's okay, and I try to understand everyone else. But I have to say that what we witnessed at the Oscars last night is a massive deficit to all of this open marriage. Just take the experiences for what they are. Approve of whatever path you need to take to experiment, and don't be so hard on yourself. It creates resentment. So even if you're in a polyamorous group, there will be resentment. I'm bending willow to weave, so there will be resentment. I have never in my life seen a polyamorous group that did not end poorly, with resentment in some regard, and then a physical altercation occurring. It is one of the most toxic environments, and some people do get in these polyamorous relationships and somehow make it work, and kudos to you. I can't. I know a few people that do that and they make it work. I can't. But statistically, it's almost impossible. There are very few times in which it works, and the times in which it does work have potentially very specific key factors and reasonings behind why it does work and why it works so well. And we could do a whole thesis statement on that. That's why it's so rare, but when they do get it right, they get it extremely right, but it's very rare. Nikki says, exactly, men are not wired to be okay with another man. No. No, for feeling that, no, they're not. No, it's, no. And, nature is still the winner, with our biology and our behavior. And growing up on a farm and understanding livestock and breeding seasons and behavior on the farm and stuff, it gives you maybe a different perspective that some people don't get. But that's why farmers have one bull and like 100 plus cows. And you can't have more than one bull. And as soon as his boy babies get old enough, you have to sell them because there will become problems. There will not be a good relationship there. And it's very much, as much as people say, well, we're not animals, we very much are. And that's why we need to, hold ourselves to a higher standard, but also look at these little issues and take them seriously and realize biologically we do have a lot of the same issues as simple animals that live in the field. But I was really just kind of floored by that behavior last night and wondered, now that I see the kids and their endeavors, I wonder if maybe, because obviously even if that home is a polyamorous home or an open marriage, obviously there's some toxicity there. Like most of the people that live in a poly union, when they get it right, they get it so right that it almost creates a very calming effect. That's why I say when they get it right, which is rare, but when they do get it right, it's so right that it's kind of a beautiful thing. But it's very rare. So we can see that whatever's going on here, it didn't end in a beautiful thing because it's ended in some resentment. You can see between the red table discussion forum and a lot of their discussions at the red table, and then the glance that was given last night to her husband. That was very much I'm fixing to put you on the battlefield. You're I say I want to protect myself, stand for myself, and I'm a strong woman. But what I need for you right now is Mr. Man to act like a man and protect me because I'm going to tell you to do so. That's very much what that body language we saw last night was. That was the I am not amused and you shouldn't be either, and you need to get your butt up right now and go defend me. And I thought, ooh. Oh, Denise popped in. Hi, Denise. Thank you, Denise. So, but when a polyamorous group gets it right, they normally get it right to such a level that it is like this super amazing story that the world, needs to hear. It doesn't, it's rare, but it happens. But I really think that what we see there is it's gone south. It was more about power than love. And that somewhere along the line, the roles as protector or the protected, they flip-flop so much no one knows the role they play. And I wonder, is that why the kids are so confused? Is that why the kids have struggled with their own identity? And is that why there's so much resentment between these two adults that say they have everything and should be completely happy, but obviously are not? That's kind of where my mind went last night. Because I eventually thought, this could just be maladjustment to people used to attention not getting the attention they need. But I knew that it was at least partially aware because of a toxic relationship. But as I thought about it last night, I thought this could potentially explain a lot of these kids and how they've grown up and learned to play social media for affection, and how they've learned to play gender roles for attention and publicity and followers and support. It's a thing to be controlled. It's a thing to be wielded. It's a thing to be used. It's a thing to generate funds. It's not just who you are. And I wonder if they've grown up in such a home that they've only ever seen love manipulated, and therefore only understand themselves in a form of manipulation. And so everything that they enter into is just further manipulation themselves. That's sad. If that's even remotely part of the problem, it's so sad. And I just thought about that, and I thought, because you look at the role model, and the vision, the snapshot of the family that was given last night, and that behavior, that one interaction, that one glance between the parents, and then him strutting up on that stage like a little baby racer and smacking Chris Rock. If that's the snapshot of the union they have, who wants it? I don't. And if I sit here and taste that unhappiness and that rejection, and that I'm obligated to do this now, excuse me, I have to take this out on this person right now, excuse me, to make her happy. I have to react in this way in order to fulfill my role, excuse me. That's scary. Well, and there was a lot of stigma, to the old 1950s, where the roles were so rigid and strict, that people were unhappy as well. And so, there is a happy medium. Like, life is all about happy medium. So I can absolutely understand. Like I said, the pendulum swing. We can't live successfully at either end of it because it's too much. We need to find the happy medium. And so few people understand the happy medium. They're so into extremes. And I just wonder. I just wonder if, as a society, anyone else is understanding that these extremes are harming our world. They're harming our children. They're harming our nation. Does anyone else see that? Do we understand that, yes, we have kids that have gender dysphoria, and we have people that will have much more successful lives if they're allowed to transition into the opposite sex. And yes, we have these cases, and we have these statistics, and we have these facts. But do we also have the balance? Because I think we have too much understanding and not enough balance, not enough questioning, not enough consideration, that sometimes we get pulled into behaviors not because it's right, but because it's just there. It's present, it's an option, and it's just there. And sometimes we need to talk about that. So, we need to find that happy medium. And we need to not always make people think that a huge change in their world is going to make them happier. A change is just a distraction. What makes you happy is when you look at the root cause of what's making you unhappy, and you look to correct that without distracting yourself. I had a friend, and when I met him, he was male, and he struggled severely with social anxiety, and he wanted to always go out and try to enjoy groups, especially groups that he had a lot in common with, but he really struggled with being present and being around a large group of people. And so when I was ever anywhere with him at any event at the same time, I would always do check-ins and make sure he was okay. And if he had to return to his room, because of the anxiety, I would try to, see if it was okay if I came up and visited with him, and, where he felt comfortable, instead of him coming out to visit me where he was uncomfortable. And we got to know each other really well, and he had a really sweet heart. But he was terribly impressionable. Terribly impressionable. To the point where he's still living at home in the basement, late 20s, early 30s. Still living at home in the basement. Still struggling. And he invited me and a friend down to visit once, and I went. My husband, I was like, yeah, go spend time with your friend. My husband is super guy. And I took one of our other close friends, and we went down, and had a great time. It was great to see him in a more relaxed state. Obviously got to know a little bit more about him. We kind of knew each other very well then, but I just from seeing him in his home space, I understood so much more about him. And was really there for this person. Was really just, I wanted to see this person do well and combat the social anxiety. And a lot of it came from, he was picked on a lot as a kid. He was a smaller male, so he was picked on a lot, made a lot of fun of, and spent a lot of time with the girls, which in later years created so many friendships, but because that's where he got a lot of his emotional support, it never really blossomed into physical relationships. Nikki says kids are basically presented a menu of mental illnesses to pick from today. Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, they know way too much. They know, well, listen, they think they know way too much. But what happens is they're actually educated beyond their understanding. And so they cannot put to use what they know. And so therefore they're really just idiots. That was not nice at all, but it's the truth. So I had to say it. And we need to work on our kids being able to use the knowledge they have. Rather than just have it, it needs to be usable. But anyway, so because this friend was more feminine and went to women a lot for support, he ended up getting more of a mental and emotional relationship with women rather than physical. And though he had physical relationships and had long-term relationships, still struggled with anxiety. Well, I witnessed him really try to date somebody that he really was attracted to, and it failed horribly. And I was like, don't give up. You are a beautiful soul. Someone will respect that. You will find someone. And the next thing I know, they went to a show. Hi, everybody popping in. I've got a thought I'm going. The next thing I know, he went to like a drag luncheon show to where he kind of got to blend into the uncomfortableness, and the performers, which are great, took on a lot of, the spotlight. So the people there were not even noticed at all because the performers were so outlandish, And I have no problem with a drag show or a drag bar. I used to go to trivia night at the Lipstick Lounge in Nashville. It was funnier and crap. You can find good people anywhere. You just have to look. But the next thing I know, he's got this little cocoon group of these people that are mid-transition. And obviously these people that he just met are super, super, super extroverted. And know how to work a crowd. And present themselves as if they have no misgivings. All the things that he struggled with. And I was like, oh no. Oh no, 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 no. And my biggest fear came true. He decided that it wasn't a problem of himself. It was that, that he socially needed to rectify anything with society and how he related to society and himself, and understanding how he himself had learned to engage with others. He just needed to completely change himself and everything would be okay. So he called me one day and he said, I think I'm trans. Okay. What can I ask? What brought this on? What brought this thought pattern on? Where I went to that show the other night and those women were so brave and so beautiful. Yeah. They get paid to be brave and beautiful. That is a persona. That's not themselves. That's a persona. Well, then I went to meet them, and they were still brave and beautiful because they're still in role play. I guarantee you that everyone that you just met does have a weak spot, does have a moment where they feel terribly inadequate, and does struggle with social pressures because everyone does. No one is Superman or Superwoman. Please do not look at this group that they've overcome all of this, and that if you wear that banner or fly that flag, you're going to be great. Oh, I want you to be happier for me. What am I supposed to be happy about? Well, I've already set up my first counseling appointment. I'm going to start getting hormone replacements. Whoa. You need to really talk to a professional for a long time. Well, I've set up that one. That's what we're going to do. They're going to start me on. And I thought, okay, as long as he's seeing a professional, I'm fine with that. Because these professionals should put you pretty much through the paces before they sign off on anything that's going to be really body altering or, Oh, no. No. I guess whoever he went to was known to be an easy person, and they within two office visits signed off on hormone replacements, even though he had a history of a lot of mental illness and a lot of social anxiety, and that was not addressed. They just immediately signed off, and he began taking estrogen. And guess what? A lot of that anxiety and rage that he had started to soften a little bit as his testosterone backed off. Well, that's biology. That's chemistry. He was distracted and enamored with his new friends as he learned to put on makeup and buy wigs. All fun. All fun. I, to this day, have a few guy friends that can do makeup better than me. I asked them several times, how do you do eyeliner? Because I can't do it. But anyway. And he pulled away from me. And because I questioned it, I said, are you sure you're making the right decision? Are you sure you've thought this through? Because this is not something you can undo. You can take the hormones. But if you stop the hormones, what has occurred in your body will not undo. You may not ever be able to have children. If you decide at any time you ever do want to live as a man again, you may not ever be able to have children. This is a big decision. I think that this provider should have talked to you more. I don't think you covered all the bases. I'm concerned. My concern, he felt, was hatred, or I was jealous of how he was blending and finding new friends. I was glad he had new friends. I was just concerned that it was a huge distraction from what he should have been dealing with, rather than putting a Band-Aid on it. So he began living as a woman. Again, that's fine. I got no problem with what you do with your life. He changed his name. I started calling him by the new name. But guess what? In about a year, when he had gotten kind of into the social circle and he kind of normalized and gelled and got to see the kind of the true faces of everybody, he started having the same social issues and started having the same inappropriate behaviors pop out. He started having the same horrible encounters with people. And I said, yeah, I think that you made a decision. And by that time he said he was upset because now that he had lived as a man and as a woman, he had basically gone through both sets of sexes in the social caste system in his area. And therefore there was no population to transition into and find newfound friends or newfound camaraderie. And he had basically screwed the pooch because there was nowhere for him to disappear to anymore. And I said, perhaps you weren't supposed to disappear at all. Perhaps you were supposed to deal with the issues. Because no matter how much you distract yourself, if you're not dealing with the root issue, it's going to show back up as soon as you get settled. And I said, I'm sorry that you did, that you wanted to believe that you had found the root issue, but I said, I knew it wasn't. I said, because your behavior and the behaviors that you were exhibiting, it's not gender specific. So I knew it wasn't the reason. I knew that you were just distracted. And I haven't heard from him in months. I've been blocked on social media. I was not supportive. I did not completely just welcome him with open arms. I had questions. I had concerns. I said, you do know that that's what friends do. When they see you fixing to sit on a spike, they warn you that it's going to hurt. And I worry to this day about his safety and if he's okay. And if he's living as a he or a she right now, I don't know. But I worry about him all the time. But I know that he had never truly witnessed a happy home life. And had received, kind of been used as the pet by his mother and the whipping boy as his father. So he was misused by both and never really understood the role that kids should play in a marriage. Well, I say kids should play a role, not a role, but how kids should be raised, reared, respected, and competently educated to accept the social ramifications of the world they live in as soon as they age into it. Growing up sucks, but we all have to do it. He had not been prepared. And the two roles he played between his mother, the pet, and his father, the whipping boy, could not be played as an adult. And so he basically aged out of any role that he could play at home that brought him any happiness or kept him out of the arguments. And so as I watched Will Smith smack the holy hay harbor delegation out of Chris Rock last night, I thought perhaps this is why those children have been so expressive. Perhaps it's less expression and it's more of a, I'm trying to fill this out here because I've not been successful with it here. Because all I get to witness here is this one dogma, this one control mechanism, this one hierarchy. And maybe what we saw out of Will Smith last night was his frustration with that role. And maybe we saw that the role he has been forced into as an enforcer might have had a little bit of backlash and damage with the unhappiness and being in that role. And he's, according to the their own documentation of their YouTube show, their Red Table or whatever, he has had to swallow a lot of unhappiness to remain in the marriage. So is what we witnessed the unfurling of all that? When the final straw on the camel's back lands, it doesn't matter when or where, he's going to lash out. Because he has two roles. He consoles her and he protects her. But only when she deems so. And that's according to her own words. That's according to the Red Table. It is at her whim and at her pleasure. That's got to be hard. To be in a relationship, to have children, to be a multimillionaire, to have all this power, and then to walk into a home where you should be an equal, and you have nothing. Unless you have agreement on everything. How can a couple have agreement on everything? But the agreement on everything must be weighted toward the woman's version. But she's very unapologetically closed to anyone else's happiness but her own. And you can tell that just from how she presents herself on that show. This is not medical advice. This is not me. It's not me trying to counsel anyone. This is just me going through what went through my mind when I watched all this last night. But I very much saw someone last night not react out of love, but react out of an order, out of intimidation, out of almost like a sergeant at arms position that is played. Because that's the role he's been given. But I certainly have never, I don't think I've ever witnessed them in an interview or anything where I've seen a glimpse of happiness. I'll just say that I've never seen their relationship portrayed on television in any way where I have said, gee, I wish I had what Jada and Will have. Never. So that kind of made me also go, that's interesting. Because I actually can't say I've never, ever had that thought. I've never thought, gee, they have something special. Normally people that have, these lives with these big fairy tale happy endings, they're very aware of their fairy tale endings, and they use that to generate more happiness for themselves. And they go worldwide to find that special someone. And they're normally aware of how happy they are, how much they have, or how their life is very different and blessed from normal society. I've never seen that from Jada and Will. And 9 times out of 10, if I've seen a headline, it's about a romantic issue, a family romantic problem, a family issue, a family squabble, the kids' projection of their identities and selves rocking society. Do you remember any calm, sweet, gentle, loving, romantic moments portrayed in that, with that family in mind? I don't. Can you all? I don't remember any. Nikki said, I think a lot of people try to be trans because they don't know how to or do not desire to fulfill social constructs of their birth identity, especially men claiming to be trans women. I think that it is overused. I think potentially 20 to 25% of the people that are trans are truly dealing with gender dysphoria and potentially need to live as trans. The other, I think, are milking an idea or a distraction to try to save themselves from some other disorder, from some other unhappiness. We gravitate, and when you're in a sinking ship, you will grab onto anything. Anything looks like a life raft when you're going down. And sadly, we've made life more about choosing a life raft than building your own goddamn boat. So these kids think that they have to pick a mental disorder, but don't understand that they can also pick a healthy lifestyle. That they can pick a healthy view of themselves. That they can demand healthy friendships. That they can speak up about inappropriate behavior from others. But somehow society forgets that. And our kids hide their problems and think that they can change their problems by completely changing themselves. Hello, the problem doesn't leave. It's still low jack to your hind end. You're still going to have to deal with it. So stop trying to pick your life raft. Stop trying to pick your lifeboat, which is that list of mental health issues. Stop looking at that like it's a dessert menu at some big restaurant. Instead of saying, this is my way out, this is how I'm going to save myself, start understanding that from the moment you become aware of yourself within society, you have the right to demand to be mentally healthy and aware and respected by others. And it's a lot easier to stand up for what you need. You know, it's a lot easier. Let's just say this: if your car needs plug wires, it's a lot easier to fix the plug wires than to put a whole new transmission. You know, so I wish a lot of parents would teach their children that rather than build a life, you know, rather than to grow up looking at your lifeboat options, grow up understanding that you're building your own boat. And the lifeboat should be in the back of your head. It should not be a forefront thought every day. The lifeboat should only be thought of when the main vessel is truly sinking. But we got so many people wanting to jump in their dinghy, half a thought. And it's created a society that simply wants to drown. They just want to drown in this emotional toxicity and this emotional misunderstanding. And then if you're not just as confused as everyone else, you're horrible. And you're uncaring. No, you built your boat. You didn't focus on your lifeboat. You built your dadgum main boat. And you did a good job. Let's stop picking on people that actually built their actual boat and did a good job. Stop making people that have healthy lives and healthy concerns and questions, stop making those people appear unhealthy. Because if we can understand what they're doing right, the focus will get off of the people that are doing everything wrong, and we might see less people hopping into their dinghies. So that's just, I don't know, that's just where I was last night when I watched all these thoughts come racing through my head. And you know, I think of things differently. Obviously, I'm not in the clinical practice anymore, so I enjoy the freedom it allows me to have when I think about these things. I'm not locked into a forceful view of things anymore, and I like the freedom that I have to explore things a little bit more. I like the freedom I have to incorporate my view of life in there. But I don't have all the answers, and I don't think the way that I live my life is the only way to live life. Like I said, I have friends that are in polyamorous groups that have quite successful unions. That's why I say when they get it right, something magical happens and it is really right. But it's very rare that it's gotten that right. More and more, you know, we start to understand with child rearing and family and the needs of women in the home. We understand the role that men play and why they needed that bond and commitment. And it's sad that we don't talk about that anymore. And it's sad that we don't allow people to explore straight lifestyles the way that they explore alternative lifestyles anymore. And it's sad that we kind of create a backlash to people that have, you know, happy monogamous marriages. You know, it takes all kinds to make the world go round. I just wonder why we keep celebrating only one vantage point when we see still so much that is not going right, but we go, shh, nobody saw that. Keep going. Sometimes we need to stop and go, I saw that. I saw that. We need to talk about it. So I just wish that we had more of an open dialogue and less of a dogma attached to gender roles, marriage, all these things that should be easier to talk about. We've stifled our youth into thinking that marriage is a toxic relationship. We've stifled our youth into thinking that you can't identify biology. We have uneducated our children so much. And then we wander around and are concerned as to why things are going wrong. There's my birdhouse so far. It's because we've uneducated them so much. That's why they're struggling. But like I said, if you raise your child to not look at the list of mental health issues as a dessert platter, as you just prepare to get in your life draft now because you are going to have mental health issues. If we stop raising our children with that thought process and we tell them, don't rely on a backup, have it. Be aware that there are backups. There are healthy outlets to ask for help. But also be aware that you're responsible. Instead of having a life boat, you are responsible for building the vessel that's going to sail you through life. Build a good primary vessel and you will not need your lifeboat. It's great to have it. It's great in a pinch. It's great when things go wrong. It's great when unexpected things happen. But let's worry more about the structure of the actual vessel. Let's worry more about the mental structure of the actual person than having that mental health code ready and waiting to stamp. Let's worry more with healthy outlets of expression than diagnosis codes. Can't tell you how unhealthy it is to think that therapy fixes everything. Therapy is great. Therapy is awesome. Therapy is a great outlet. But it should not just be used like sprinkles on freaking cupcakes everywhere, every day, on everything. It needs to be taught that it is a resource and it is being used because other attempts have failed, and that we're going to therapy because we have a concern for well-being. Not because it's cool, not because it's hip, not because we're trying to distract ourselves, but because we're trying to repair something that otherwise we've been unable to repair. Let's teach our children to respectfully build themselves appropriately, to ask the questions on the front side, rather than to, and instead of being hush-hush at home and have to ask a therapist that's a perfect stranger these questions that should be asked of mom and dad. Therapy has its purpose. I was a therapist. I understand that. I worked clinically. Therapy has a great purpose. But the more we use it, the less useful it becomes. You become numb to it. And it loses its power. It loses its, I don't know, it does. It loses its potency if it's misused or it's used too much. It really does. It becomes this thing that is normalized, and it should not be normal to have so many issues that you have to go and medically receive treatment. I'm glad that people ask for help because it's important to ask for help. But it needs to be revered. Just like if you go to a brain doctor for a brain scan, that's a heavy moment. Counseling needs to be thought of like that. That's a heavy moment. If you can't handle something on your own and you have to have an intervention, and you have to have a specialist, that's a heavy moment. Don't treat it, like it's babysitter book club, It's counseling. It's a big deal. And don't forget that family should be, if you have a healthy family, family should be the first outlet for communication. A lot of families don't even attempt communication anymore. They just throw you to therapist. We've forgotten the power of the family, the power of the parent, the power of the healthy parent. It's a big deal. It's a very big deal. The power of a healthy parent is a very big deal. You know, and there's been a lot of misuse of mental health and mental health practices in the past. Um, and even though that I have worked in the field, you should have a healthy skepticism and make sure that you find appropriate therapists and people that you can trust and believe in, because there's been a lot of misuse of that field. I don't know. I just what I witnessed last night was not the portrayal of health and status and happiness and someone that has had a life of such happiness and contentment in their art that they just have just bubbled over and touched everyone else so in such a loving manner. It's not what I witnessed last night, and it kind of bothered me because if you watch the Red Table, you see Jada revel in the problems. Why? We only revisit places that give us power. So what is she getting from hashing out of problems that table so often? Because we only revisit places that give us power. We only revisit places that pay our emotional bills. What did she get from Will's behavior last night? Because he had everything to lose. So what did she get from his behavior last night? There's a lot of ways you can look at this. And what if it had been two different races that had interacted in that way? Lord, the hassle we'd been in today over that one. I don't even want to think about that. I don't even want to think about that. We've had so much race squabble in this nation the last few years. I don't even want to think about what that would have started. Lord help me, that would have been horrible. And what if it had been a man that had walked up and slapped one of the female presenters? That would have gone over like a turd in a punch bowl. So, when people are trying to justify this behavior because, they're looking at it was, a man toward a man, it very well could not have been had it been one of the women that had made that joke. What would the excuse have been then? I don't know. I find all the avenues of this interesting. Nikki said, also, can we please stop parents from forcing people to label their kids with mental illness just so they can get a check? Hello, Fuzzy. It needs to be said. It needs to be said. I saw that a lot, especially with foster parents. Foster kids normally have gone through a lot. But it's amazing how quickly foster parents will jump on to counseling in order to get additional funding. And I understand that some kids need that counseling. I also understand that some kids are not going to benefit from it at all, and it's probably going to do more harm than good. But it's almost always approved because, they always err on the side of caution with these foster kids. But you know something? Some foster kids have a terribly good handle on things that have occurred and happened to them. Probably more than the adults that have taken care of them sometimes. So everything's an individual basis. You have to look at everything on an individual basis and really open your eyes and understand that we all have different lifestyles. But when you see people lash out like that and have these huge emotional outbursts, something's wrong. When you were teaching, you have 2 or 3 parents a month bring a disability paper network. Bless your heart, yeah. And sadly, it's probably grown. I've told this story several times. The last place that I worked that I left, and we did not have a good taste in our mouths toward each other when I left. He would get mad because I would see parents on probation Um, they had they had gotten a charge, had to do with child neglect. They were on probation, supervision, doing drug education and counseling, and seeing probation and working, and that's a lot. And so they would come in for their assessments with me, and I would give them, my look at it was, they need to learn that they can be successful. So let's give them one thing to complete, and then we will reassess and see what else we need to move on to. Let's start with the most severe. Let's start with what will help the most. And my supervisor would be like, you could have put them in 3 more programs. They can't work a full-time job. Go to visitations, supervise visitations with their children. Pay for probation, see their probation officer, and do their drug classes. And come see me. And that's going to cause them to fail. If you give them too much help, it becomes a speed bump. They look at it and become overwhelmed and say, I'm never going to complete this, because all they see are the man hours that go into it. They do not see the good that can come from it at the end. You have to incrementally take it like that with some people and say, let's focus on this first, and then we'll go from there, and we'll reassess and do this, and have it written up in their treatment plan that once they finish something here, then we go and we assess this. And make sure that you're talking with probation, and make sure you're talking with the drug counselors, and make sure that they understand that this is someone you feel you need to take things incrementally with. Because if you put too much on somebody, they will just give up. Like, I've seen so many parents go, what's the point? I can't work and do this and do that. I'm going to lose my kids. And they just absolutely want to give up because they've given them so much to complete, they can't do it. And it's sad to see good parents have breakdowns. And then you see the bad parents that have, 5th time you've had them referred, and they'll complete whatever because they have no job, nothing else to do. But we base our treatment off those people like them instead of the workers and the people that have multiple things they have to get through. There's a lot of unhealthy stuff in the mental health field. There's a lot of unhealthy practices, a lot of unhealthy assumptions, a lot of unhealthy, honestly, if we're just going to say it, a lot of unhealthy businesses that become big corporations just because they can bill. And he wanted me to put them in 3 or 4 things so that he could get the money for it. And I was really hashing out the clinical hours for this man, because I also taught a juvenile group addiction course. And so I had the max for the state limit is like 13. I had 13 kids in that. And so, he was really making some money off of me. Like, we'll just say that. He was really making some money off of me. But he wanted more. And not once did his thought race to, I'm going to give this family so much that they're going to give up. And they're going to lose their children because they're going to feel that the mountain is too high to climb. And so I tried to be the voice of reason. And I had a lot of success. I had a lot of successes. Had a high success rate. I had a high success rate on my parole caseload as well. Individual. We have to take everybody individually. That's what I'm saying. I don't know everything. I have a lot of ideas. But we need to be listening to a lot of people instead of just, focusing on 1 to 2 examples and thinking that is the gold standard. Because obviously, a lot of people would have thought that Jada and Will were the gold standard in a lot of ways. And we found out last night that they're not. They're struggling in their own way. We found out last night that society will literally make an excuse for anything as long as they like somebody. Which is horrible. And we learned last night that maybe we're not all in the healthiest of places. And maybe we need to start looking at why America's culture is disappearing, and American families are struggling and suffering and having more drug addiction and more divorce and more marital problems, more domestic violence. Because if you want to answer the questions, you'll find it. But if we keep doing this research and studies based on catering toward one sect of the population or one standard, we're never going to understand what's gone wrong. We're just going to understand what we're focused on. That's not going to help at all. Because you're very rarely focused on your own resolution. I'm just going to tell you that right now. As a human being, you're very rarely focused on your own resolution. You're normally focused on your own damnation. Why? Because it's scarier and more interesting. And it's kind of what society has taught us to be focused on. Nikki said, did you see where... Oh, I didn't. No, I don't follow him. I guess I should. Well, give the boy props for putting that together. I didn't see that. I hadn't seen that. Now I'm going to have to go look for that. I don't follow him, so I don't really follow that. And honestly, at this point, I'm just kind of like, Ryan, let him slink back and lick his wounds and just disappear, bless his heart. Because I believe that young man's dealing with a lot. And I just don't believe it's right to burden him with much more. I don't know. Normally, once the lesson has been taught, you back away and let your students sit in the sauce for a little while. And so anything that Johnny Gobble may have learned or contemplated, I think the more prodding and poking, it makes him drop the lessons he's learned and go back, just revert back to the behavior that got him here. And it's just unhealthy. That's just how I see it. I know Ryan is like irritated with people that think you should leave him alone. And I don't always agree with Ryan. I'm very much my own person. He's very much his own person. We don't always agree. I think that Mr. Gobble definitely had lessons learned, but I think it's kind of overkill at this point. But that beam, kudos for putting that one together. That's a pretty big deal for him. I'm not, and I don't even know, here's the sad thing, I don't even know where to go, if he's on Instagram or Facebook, or I don't even know where he is. So I don't even know how to go check, but bless his heart, if he's handling what's been dished out, because here lately it's become a little bit redundant. But I also understand that I don't know everything he was doing to Ryan, and so that some of this could very well be a valuable lesson for Mr. Gobble, and quite deserved. But if it were my situation, once the initial offer for rehab and that went, I would have been like, a piece of out. I tried, and it's not going to work, I'm going. I would have just walked away. But to each his own, it's kind of how I live my life. Oh my God, where is this page at? Is it Instagram or what? He's posting songs now. Can he at least sing? Should I even worry about asking that? Should I be concerned? I'm not opposed to go looking at it. I don't know. It really bothered me because I saw so much more in his eyes. Even when he was trying to hurt Ryan, I saw hurt in his eyes. And so there's something else going on there that probably no one will ever know. Tag Bird Johnny Gobble. Okay. See, I didn't even know he had that page. I'll look it up when I get done here and get laid down, and I'll look it up. Thank you for letting me know that. I didn't know where to look. I am super aggressive at times, and I don't care to put a boundary down. But then once the boundary, once the lessons learned and the boundary's there, and everybody's like, okay, I'm like, okay, no, go on about your business. Oh, goodness. Well, if he's still poking, then I guess Ryan has every right to poke. So, I don't know. you think people would process more and like actively learn. I'm concerned by what I'm seeing in our society. I don't know. I just had some really super deep thoughts about those kids, the Smith kids, and what they've been through, and potentially how we can now understand more about what they projected as they grew up, and were expressing themselves. Why perhaps they were expressing themselves in the way they were, and why they tend to gravitate toward female gender and female gender displays, and it just was very interesting. Just very interesting. The dynamic there that we saw completely kind of shattered the facade. Even though we knew there were huge issues, that right there really left an imprint. Because that's just not a thought or a word or discussion. That was a physical behavior, and a very bad one. So, I was just very unbecoming. I don't know. Oh, goodness gracious. I'll go listen to it. I'll go listen to it. If you're on the next time I'm on live, be sure to ask me what I thought. I'll make sure I find it tonight and look at it. So I've got the birdhouse this far done. I've got a little tie down here holding a specific spot, but that will be cut out when I get done. So I've got the birdhouse this far done. I'm fixing to put the door right here in the widest gap. So it's going to have a little square door, and then I'm going to finish going on up. I broke a thing, or I would have had a smaller round door. I broke one of these, so that's just yay for me. And then I'm going to wrap it all up. And I probably actually, because you want this to not, you want there to be gaps, because the little birdies live at the bottom, and the little birdies poop and potty, and it needs to drip out. So you want it tight so whether they're not going to fall through, but you want their excrement to be able to seep out. And so you almost want a string for stuff to, like a rain chain, it's going to be pulled down and drip down. So I'll take this out when I get it done. And I actually would probably put some like joy wire or fishing string, fishing line, and tie it on and put some beads hanging down so that it pulls it down and pulls the poopy away from the baby birds. And then I will, when I get to the last few layers, I will actually weave in the hanger. So the hanger is super, 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 meshed into the whole thing. This is super strong. I mean it's super strong. And so it will be really secure when it hangs. So I hadn't made one of these since I was tiny. Me and my grandpa used to sit and make these. So Johnny also keeps on with the whole mama up church sleeping rides friends thing. Oh my goodness, so listen, we don't dog Patty. Patty is just a sweetie pie. Now listen, I will step up for Patty. Patty is, I just adore her. She's still got such a zest for life, and y'all, she's not too far behind me. And let me tell you what, when I was her age, I was already like on the whole world. So for her to still have a zest for life, I just love her. And she obviously did a wonderful job raising such a creative young son. So I just don't want anybody to say anything bad about Pat. Actually, I told her I was going to weave her one of these. So I'll weave one to go to her because I want one to go to Ghost Ranch. I've noticed there are like swallows flying around in some of the videos that Ron posted. And I was like, they need a birdhouse. It's going to be super cute when it's done. They look kind of like a hot mess until you get them trimmed up and all the way woven. But they're really, like, I cannot tell you how strong this is. It's so strong. Like, it's strong. But I'm going to weave one and send to her at Ghost Ranch. I told her I would. So, I'm probably going to do a video here soon since I'm finally better and can sit up for longer amounts of time. I still look like I'm super sick, but I'm not. I'm actually healing. But since I can sit up now and my muscles are better and I'm not having spasms, I'm going to probably do a video and try to tag Ryan because my Instagram messages get lost in the shuffle. He's probably got 5,000 a day, bless his heart. I understand why I get lost in the shuffle, but we want to do the interview for the older profiled Creek Squad members. Like, I've had people in their 70s message me that they're super excited about this interview. And so I definitely want to get that done while I'm feeling good. So I'll probably do a video just to like ring his bell and say, hey Ron, because that's normally how I get stuff to him. Because right now Instagram with all the profiles he's bounced through, and I just get lost in the shuffle. and I understand why. I'm not important. I totally understand that. So I'll just do a little video and tag him, and when he notices it, I'm sure he'll get back with me. He's really good about that, and we'll just try to get that interview lined up ASAP. And let's all just cross fingers and pray I don't get sick or have another flare between now and then, because I just don't mentally think I can go through another one right now. I'm ready for some warmer temps and some good weather and some sunshine and vitamin D and being outside. I need to recharge my battery. This was the roughest winter I've ever had health-wise. On a good note, my new insurance does start April 1st. Um, I do have enough to pay the first month, and I've almost got enough to pay the second month. And after that, things should calm down financially, and it should be just normal again. Thank God. So things are looking a lot better on the home front. My phone died the other day, which is, my iPhone's been dying for a long time. I've got my iPad. That just luckily Walmart put on clearance a phone that I've been oogling for a while, and so I think I'm going to grab it while it's on clearance. Because I looked and they still have like 3 or 4 in stock, and I live in a super small area, so I'm going to think about it tonight, and if there's still one in stock in the morning, I'm probably just going to have David grab it on his way through. He's got to go see a specialist in the morning. His Lyme disease is acting up, so toss up a prayer for Dave. Y'all saw how tired he was the other night. He was so tired, he was just rambling. Like, he was pretty much in a vegetative state during the live last night. He was so tired, but he wanted to do that. He is excited about his new projects, and he is excited to find out that you can sell the chewed beaver sticks. That people were making like careers out of it. So he's super excited, and he wanted to share that. He was super tired, so I'm hoping that he will start to feel better here soon. It doesn't help that, he works a lot and he's got a lot to do at home and take care of me. It's a lot. But I hope that he starts feeling better when the weather kind of straightens out too. We think he had COVID and got his immune system knocked. It just allowed the Lyme disease to present a little bit more. So if we can get it to hush back down, we think he'll be okay. I know I thought, I better do it while it's on clearance, because the next round that will come out will probably be so expensive I don't dare buy one. And I don't need a lot. Like, I want to be able to take a decent picture, because he normally uses whatever phone I have for Etsy. And so I try to keep a phone that will take a decent picture and that I can use to do this. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be like super high pixels. It just has to be usable. And so I think they put it down to it was like $50 or $60 that they put it down to, and I was like, okay, no, I'll go for that. And it was a pretty decent phone, and it will do what I need it to do. Like, I live in the boondocks. A lot of the bells and whistles are lost to me on these new phones anyway. I just need a good picture and a decent cell reception, which is not going to happen where I live, but I'll ping a tower eventually, and to be able to live stream if I need to go live, or if I need to add anything to the Etsy store for David to be able to access and do that. So really, I live a simple life, and I need it also to keep with my health insurance and stuff, to keep all of that stuff up to date, because my health insurances now have apps where I coordinate care, and so phones have become so freaking important. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think I don't like it. So yeah, I have to have my apps for my health care as well. So yeah, they're kind of important, but still, I can go with like a base model. So I don't need an iPhone. Matter of fact, I'm actually glad my iPhone died, because I hated it. Oh, I actually started pulling all my quilt squares out and setting them in the quilt piles to separate them. I think I got to 17 or 21 in the pinwheels. I had them wrote down on a piece of paper, and I was counting all my squares of different. I've got different piles, different types, and I've still got more to go through in the bag. So I've got to get them sorted out, and then I'll drop it off, and I'll strip it really quick. That won't take very long, and then I'll drop it off to have it put together. So it's really cute. It's a really cute pinwheel, because it wasn't like set down. It was made over time, and you can tell that it's kind of a little bit of every fabric that's kind of gone through, a little bit of every leftover that my mother may have had, And as I've had fabric, I've just patched them together and put it in the bag. So it's really kind of like a timeline for me. And like I picked a couple up there. I was like, I remember that fabric. So it was kind of fun to go through them. But I do have them started to put them out in their stacks because I'm going to have at least 2 of them done. So we'll see. And I think I'm going to sell one, and then I think one I'm actually going to trade. I'm going to do a craft trade or a goods trade with someone on the other one. But I have marked the pinwheel to go up for sale. So the moment it gets back and gets done, I will show it on a live, and everyone will know before I post it. Because it's going to be so big and tall, I'll have to have David hang it up so I can take a picture. I'm too short. But, well, he ought to be home soon. I'm going to get me some more water and let Oscar potty. And I might do a dish or two. Bad as I hate to. And then I'm going to hit the bed because we have a big day tomorrow with David going to a specialist. And I've got a lot of work to finish up. Today was not a good day. I had sinus headache all day. But tomorrow the weather starts to brighten up and pretty up. So Wednesday's supposed to be beautiful. And I hope it is. If so, then we'll do something outdoors to share. But I appreciate y'all spending the evening with me and just let me kind of brain vomit. I always like to talk through these things. And if you're watching this later and you have something you want to share, you have an opinion or you have a different perspective, please put it below. I will respect it if it's submitted tastefully. I will respect any opinion, any viewpoint. And like I said, I'm not opposed to different lifestyles. I've seen many different lifestyles work. I'm just concerned about perhaps how this family's attempt at an open marriage may have affected their children and how they express themselves and created that resentment, which culminated in what we saw last night. Just a big topic, big something to think about. We all need to start thinking about how we present ourselves, why we present that way, and where we learn some of our bad habits, because if we think about it long enough, you'll figure it out. I have a lot of bad habits. Probably need to spend more time thinking about that. I'll try to do that from now on. But everything that I tell you guys to work on, I tell you that because I'm working on it too. If you ever think, well, she's just telling me I need to work on everything, it's because I'm actively working on it too. It's actively present in my mind, in my life as well. I'm not like picking, or it's something I'm dealing with as well. So anything that I'm speaking about, I'm going through too. And I always, I raised 2 wonderful kids, and I think I got it right. I'm pretty proud. But I know that there are other ways to successfully raise children. But I also know that there are ways that do not work, and we're seeing a whole lot more now that don't work as opposed to do. Oh my goodness, he won't be back until December. Well, bless your heart. You're just bonus family now. You just spend your evenings with me when I'm online. We'll just keep each other company. Bless your heart. I don't know if I can handle that. You're stronger than I am. I just don't know if I could do that. David used to wire Tractor Supply and Lowe's and garden centers and stuff for security, and he would be gone for a week or 2, and it would drive me nuts. So I'm not like a super needy wife, but I don't know. I need my husband around me. I just don't know if I'm that strong. I guess I'm needier than I want to admit. I just don't. I have a lot of respect for people that can do. I just can't do that. I know my limits. I can't do that. So kudos to you. You're stronger than I am. I couldn't do that. So, but you're more than welcome to spend any evening I'm on. And if you ever are like super struggling, you can email me watersworkload@gmail.com. Anytime you need to talk about something or you get super lonely, just yell at me. But I'm going to get ready for bed. I hope everybody has a great night. I hope you rest, and I hope we all wake up raring to go tomorrow, and tomorrow's a better day. And I hope we see the sun. That's covering a lot of ground, y'all. I'm impressed. I don't know if I could do that. I'm always impressed when I see other lifestyles, and I'm like, man, I could not do that. But other people make it work. So it takes all kinds to make the world go round. So yeah, we definitely need to get to know each other better. I've just y'all are family. Like Jamie and Denise, y'all know your family. Priscilla's working. She's working her little honey off. Y'all pray for Priscilla, a country Christian. She's working her butt off. But we're family. We've just become family. We've got yeah, Jamie. Yeah, my jam lady's in Iowa. May have a potential match there. That may be something. Well, tell you what, you go by the same name on Instagram, right, Jamie? Um, that's not like just fictitious in my brain. That's the truth, right? So if she needed to reach out to you, she could reach out to you. Waterloo. And I'm going to be singing that song the rest of the night. Oh dear. That's going to irritate David. You know I'm feeling better if you can see the dimples on my nose, because that means I'm not swollen. Now you all know. If you can see the dimples on the ends of my nose, I'm not swollen and I'm healthy. I'm not super swollen and I'm healthy. Dimples on the nose. Useless knowledge. There you go. Okay, ladies, I'm going to have to end this, but when it loads, if you all are trying to find each other, then find each other in the comments, and then if you need to, go back and delete them, or if you can't and want me to, let me know and I will. But definitely reach out to each other if you all can be a boost to each other, since you are in closer proximity to where her other half is. So I'm going to have to go and get Oscar out and get everybody rounded to bed. But I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Night, y'all.